Last time we mentioned, by the by, negotiations. I want to take you through a famous set of negotiations, page 107. If I were invited to address the United Nations about the situation in the Middle East, I would teach them this passage so that good people in Thailand and in Sweden and in Australia would understand what we are facing here in the Middle East. Sarah dies and she needs to be buried. So we start with verse 3. He's living in a Hittite area. Avram rose up from the presence of his dead, and he spoke to the children of Ches, Hittites, saying, I'm an alien and a resident among you. Give me an estate for a burial site with you, that I may bury my dead from before me. Alien resident means obviously I wasn't born here. This isn't my home, but I'm living here. I've been living here for a while. My wife died, on page 107. My wife died, and give me an estate for a burial site with you, that I may bury my dead from you. Children of Ches answered Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my Lord, little L, no implications of God there. You are a prince of God in our midst. In the choicest of our burial places, bury your dead. Any of us will not withhold his burial place from you from burying your dead. That's round one of the negotiations. What I want you to do is look very carefully at what Abraham asked for and what they responded, and tell me, is their answer to Abraham yes or no?
No.
In what way? What did they say no to?
He asked for his own place to bury them, and they offered from theirs.
Very good. What does Abraham say? He says, give me an estate for a burial site. Give it to me. I want to own it, that I may bury my dead. What do they answer him? Hear us, my Lord, you're a prince of God in our midst. In the choicest of our burial places, bury your dead. Any of us will not withhold his burial place from you from burying your dead. Yes, you can bury your dead anywhere we bury people. Pick the best you like, but it belongs to us. It doesn't belong to you. You're not getting it. This is round one. And notice the vocabulary that's being used in the expression, right? He asked for something. Do they say no, drop dead? Do they say no, you're an alien, we don't want to talk to you? No, they're very friendly. You're a prince of God in our midst. Everybody loves you. We have all respect for you. It's just that what you asked for, the answer is no. You're not getting that. That's round one. Okay, page 107 is the negotiations of Abraham to get a burial place for his wife. And we are analyzing the negotiations between Abraham and the local residents. And the first round, which was verses 4, 5, and 6, Abraham said, I'm an alien resident. Give me an estate for a burial place. And they answered him in 6, Hear us, my Lord, you're a prince of God in our midst. Now, wouldn't you expect that to be an introduction to, we'll give you whatever you want? But they say, in the choicest of our burial places, bury your dead. Any of us will not withhold his burial place from you from burying your dead. In other words, you're not getting your own. You're not getting your own. No. You're a prince of God. Yes, absolutely. Wonderful. But the answer to your request is no. Okay, now let's go to round 2. Verse 7. Abraham rose up and bowed down to the members of the council, spoke to them, saying, If it is truly your will to bury my dead from before me, heed me and intercede for me, that means plead for me, plead on my behalf, with Ephron the son of Tochar. Let him give me the cave of Machpelah, which is his, on the edge of his field. Let him give it to me for its full price in your midst as an estate for a burial site. Okay, Abraham does seem to be insisting that he should own it. But now look carefully at what Abraham says and tell me, what exactly does he want? What exactly does he want from them or from Ephron? What kind of transaction does he want?
Is the pay in full?
Okay, but he also says what?
Grant me?
Grant me, which in the plain Hebrew is give me. Look what he says. Let him give me the cave. let him give it to me for its full price in your midst. So what does he want? He says, give twice. And then he says, but I'm going to pay the full price. So what's his attitude here? What's his intention here? One way to explain it, I don't think you can get this directly out of the verse, but one way to explain it is this. George has hanging over his fireplace a picture painted by Picasso called Guernica. And I want that picture. Now, I've priced it, and it's worth about $125 million. So I go to George and I say, listen, I'm willing to give you $150 million. It's much more than it's worth. I want that picture. And I want you to sell it to me. And George says, I sympathize. Because you know what? I want that picture too. I don't want to sell it. You can offer me $300 million. It's not a monetary investment on my part. I want to own that picture. So under those conditions, if he finally agrees to sell it to me, he's doing me a favor. Because really, he doesn't want to sell it at all. So Abraham says, if Ephron will be willing to do business with me, I will regard it as a gift. I'll regard it as a gift. Because he doesn't have to sell it. Even if I offer him a fair price, he doesn't have to sell it. So I'm asking him to do me the favor of being willing to sell it to me, but I'll pay full price. That's the meaning of Abraham's proposition. Are we together? Now let's see how Ephron responds. This is round 2 in the negotiations. Everyone's sitting in the midst of the children of Ches. The Hittite responded to Abraham, the hearing children of Ches, will come to us. City saying, I'm not interested in the background, I'm interested in the communication. Verse 11. No, my Lord, heed me. I've given you the field. And as for the cave that is in it, I've given it to you. And the view of the children of my people, I've given it to you. Bury your dead. Is this a yes or a no to what Abraham said?
It says bury your dead, so you assume.
It's not a yes. He's not paying for it.
Oh, what happened to the money? What happened to the money? Now watch. Count up on your fingers, boys and girls. Abraham said, give twice and money once. How does Ephron respond? How many?
3 times.
3 times. Ephron says 3 times. I'll give you 3 times. Ephron is very precise. You had 3 terms for the transaction, 2 gives and a pay. He says give, which is his. And by the way, Ephron starts his word with his speech with what word?
No.
No, that's not to be thrown away. That's not trivial. If he says no, he means no. He knows what he's doing. He knows what Abraham wants. They say, no, I'm giving it to you. I don't want money. What could possibly be the motivation of someone when he's offered full price to say, no, I want to give it to you? Indeed, what's the motivation to be resistant to giving or selling land to someone? So there's a political background here. If you own land, you become a partner in the geography. You become a landed resident, which gives you a certain equality. I don't know if you know, but in the early United States of America, if you didn't own land in certain states, you couldn't vote because you don't have a stake in what's going on. You had to be landed property. They say you're an alien, all right. You're a resident. You're a resident here, but you're not getting real estate. You're not getting real estate. You're not becoming an equal citizen with us. You can bury your dead in our burial places. Absolutely not. Abraham says, no, I want to own it. So this is the second round. Here, Ephron says, okay, I'll give it to you. Why? Because suppose Ephron gives him the land, and later, 2 years later, 5 years later, Abraham does something to Ephron that Ephron doesn't like. What will Ephron say? You're living on the land I gave you, and that's how you treat me? I'm kicking you off. I'm kicking you off. It's never really yours unless you pay for it. Unless you pay for it. Once you pay for it, once the original owner has taken money for it, then he's given up all claims to it. So Ephron says, I'll give it to you, because that way I'm still in control. You're not a real owner. And of course, Abraham doesn't want that. Then now we come to the third round of negotiations. Are we together so far? Okay. Abraham bowed down before the members of the council. He spoke to Ephron, and he said, beginning at the middle of 13, rather, let me just check the Hebrew to make sure that this is correct. Yeah, rather is good. If only you would heed me, I give the price of the field, accept it from me, that I may bury my dead there. So you see, Abraham is insisting that he pay for it. And the word rather is not a throwaway either. Rather means, I'm not accepting what you just proposed. No, rather something else. And he emphasizes that he wants to pay. At this point, Ephron's desire for money causes him to throw all caution to the winds, and he says, my Lord, heed me land with 400 silver shekels between me and you. What is it? Bury your dead. And Abraham conducts the deal, contracts it in exactly the way that he wants to do so. Yeah.
Sorry if it's redundant, my question, but the word heed, we've constantly said that it means obey. Why such strong language?
No, actually, the word heed doesn't always mean obey. We saw last week a place where heed meant to listen to. Let me check the Hebrew here. They use it indiscriminately in the English.
Okay.
This is 13, right? Yeah. No, it's listen to my voice.
Okay.
You just listen to me, he says. You can't read it from the heed in the English. I meant the heed in that spot. In Hebrew, to obey is the shmoa bekol. When it's bekol, which is an unusual construction, it means to obey. The shmoa likol, or hear me, listen to me, does not carry that implication. In English, can't help it. And Ephron copies his vocabulary, uses the same thing. Does not, but it's good that you asked. Okay. Abraham heeded Ephron, listened to him. Abraham weighed out to Ephron the price which he had mentioned in the hearing of the children of Ches, 400 silver shekels in. Now here your translator got it right. It just doesn't. It's just almost meaningless. Negotiable currency. What is currency? Currency is what the laws say you have to take in payment of a debt. If you buy something on credit and then you hand him dollar bills, he's got to take them. He cannot say, I prefer milk, or I prefer stocks, or I prefer your house. He's got to take them. That's what currency is. Currency is something that the law says is payment for debts. So, negotiable currency? A thing is currency only because it's negotiable. There's nothing added by saying negotiable currency. Commentators say this. They minted coins in those days. And the value of the coin was roughly the value of the precious metal from which it was minted. Coins were made out of silver. Some were even made out of gold. The United States had silver coins, I remember, till the 1940s or 50s. Then we got the sandwich coins, which are silver coated but copper inside. Now, they didn't have ways of strengthening the metals. The metals were soft and rubbed off. When they rubbed off, they weighed less, so they had less value. If the minting was sharp, if the image on it was sharp, then you knew that it had not been used often, so it had not rubbed off from its value. Abraham took brand new coins, coins that any businessman would take immediately because they were in perfect shape. Abraham wanted absolutely no excuse for Ephron to say, wasn't a real deal, we didn't get really what we contracted for. He wanted it to be absolutely binding. And that's where it is. That's where it is to this day. In Hebron. Okay? That's one negotiation. Now I'm going to show you a much more bitter negotiation. Look at page 181. Chapter 34. Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to look over the daughters of the land. Fraternized with the girls of the land. Shechem, the son of Hamor the Chivite, the prince of the region. So Hamor is the king. Shechem is his son, the prince. Saw her, took her, lay with her, and violated with her. In other words, he raped her. I must introduce a little anecdote here. Maybe 10 years ago, we had a student who came from a strong conservative background. And he said, Rabbi, why do you say that he raped her? Maybe she consented. After all, he said, the verb to rape is not used here. So why do you say he raped her? And I said, that's a good question. Go home and think about it. At home, I took out a magic book. It's called the Concordance. The Concordance has every word in the entire Bible, not just the 5 books of Moses, but the entire Bible. Every Hebrew word with every place that appears everywhere. The guy who did it didn't finish it. He went crazy. Every Odom, every Ish, every place where it says that with a little bit of context, so you can zip through all of them and see where the word is used and how the word is used in different ways. It's a tremendous job. He did it according to grammar. Then they did it with a computer, which is terrible because it makes all sorts of mistakes in terms of meaning. But at any rate, I take out the book and I look for the verb to rape. Guess what I discovered? There is no verb to rape in the entire Tanakh. There is no such verb. The verb that's used in later literature doesn't exist in the Tanakh. In fact, it's used only twice, and in neither place does it mean to rape. So that's point number 1 in terms of information. And number 2, there is a verb to seduce. That verb is used in the Torah in several places. And that verb is not used here. So according to his logic, the conclusion is the exact opposite. The conclusion is exactly what I said. The text means specifically to rape. At any rate, that's just, how people who get taught with some sophistication can get it 180 degrees incorrect. Okay, so he raped her. He became deeply attached to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the maiden. Yeah.
If the meaning was that she wanted to sleep with them, then what does the Torah have to say violated her?
No, she wanted to speak with the daughters of the area. The daughters of the area. This is not a daughter, this is a man. This is the principal.
No, I understand. You remember how you're saying your student was saying no, it wasn't a rape?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, what does the Torah say violated her if she wanted to sleep with him? Meaning, it wasn't a rape. What does the Torah have to tell me laid with her and violated her?
Okay, but his only point was that it doesn't use the specific verb to rape. I agree. The sound of the word sounds like, but he said it doesn't say the verb to rape. If there were a verb to rape and it were not used, that would be a question. It would be a question. But this turns out to be factually incorrect.
It does also say that he took her, which kind of implies force in some way.
In a way. I mean, these words have different meanings in different contexts. When you put it all together, it certainly connotes that. And since, as we said, the verb to seduce, which is a genuine verb in Hebrew, patah, pei, tuf, hey, is a verb to seduce, and it's used several times, at least in the book of Deuteronomy. So if the text avoided that word, then it means it definitely wasn't seduction. It was rape. Okay, he became deeply attached to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the maiden and appealed to the maiden's emotions. What can you deduce about her reaction from those words? He appealed to the maiden's emotions. I don't think you can deduce anything. It doesn't tell you how she responded. Don't people sometimes appeal to you for things and you just brush it off? Don't sometimes people appeal to you for things and you get angry? You're not always pleasantly affected by someone's appeal to you. It all depends upon what they're appealing for, how justified it is, what it's going to cost you. All we know is that he appealed to her emotions. It says absolutely nothing about her reaction. Okay. So, Shechem spoke to Hamor, his father, and saying, take this girl from your wife. I want her. Jacob heard that he had defiled his daughter Dinah while his sons were the cattle in the field. Jacob kept silent until his arrival. The relationship of Jacob and his sons here is very complex. I don't fully understand it. I'm not going to comment on it. Hamor, Shechem's father, went out to Jacob to speak to him. Jacob's sons arrived from the field. When they heard, the men were distressed, fired deeply with indignation. Means they were outraged. For he had committed an outrage in Israel by lying with the daughter of Jacob. Such a thing may not be done. Hamor spoke to them, saying, okay, here we go. Round 1 of the negotiations. This is the father of the prince who raped Dinah. Shechem, my son, longs deeply for your daughter. Please give her to him as a wife, and intermarry with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters to yourselves. Among us shall you dwell. The land will be before you. Settle and trade in it, and acquire property in it. Psh, what a proposal! Look at that. Peace, openness, economic integration, full citizenship, and we'll be intermarried at the top levels. What could be better than that? Then Shechem said to her father and brothers, let me gain favor in your eyes. And whatever you tell me, I will give. Inflate exceedingly upon me the marriage settlement and gifts, and I will give whatever you tell me. Only give me the maiden for a wife. Do you hear anything grotesque here? Let me find favor in your eyes. Who's talking? The rapist. The rapist is talking to the father of the girl and saying, let me find favor in your eyes. I want you to like me. I want you to respect me and like me. We should be good friends. I'll pay for it. I want to marry your daughter. Whatever money you want, inflate it, make it big, make the difference. I want to find favor in your eyes. The attitude here seems to be, I raped her, so what? That's nothing. That's not even a matter to talk about. I'm not even apologizing for that. I just want to go on. I want to get married to her, and I want to keep the thing alive. And his father is interested in an economic integration. Jacob's sons answered Shechem's father cleverly and spoke because they defiled his sister Dinah. And you'll see I'm holding one fact back from you, which is I'll change the complex collection of the whole thing. They said that we cannot do this thing to give our sister to a man who's uncircumcised. That is a disgrace for us. Only in this condition we acquiesce to you. Come like us, letting every male become circumcised. Then we'll give our daughters to you. You take your daughters to ourselves. We will dwell with you and become a single people. But if you will not listen to us, be circumcised. We'll take our daughter and go. There's already a hint, but I'm not going to use it right now. Anyway, they're pretending to go along with the proposal on a condition that the people of Shechem have to circumcise. I want to show you, in terms of negotiations, a little peculiarity in the text, which gives you an idea of negotiating strategies. Go back to 9. This is the king speaking. Intermarry with us. Give your daughters to us and take our daughters for yourselves. Do you see an imbalance there in action? I don't think that's a balanced proposal. I think it's an unbalanced proposal. Where's the imbalance in the proposal in 9?
We should have said that we will give our daughters.
Yeah, the action is imbalanced. He paints the action as all coming from the Jewish side. You give your daughters and you take our daughters. What are we doing? Nothing. We're doing nothing. You're giving and you're taking. Right? And what do Jacob's sons say when they agree to it in 16?
Give and take again.
You bet. We will give and we will take. Well, that's the way you proposed it. And that's exactly how we're taking it. Right? Now, just skip down to the very bottom of the page, the last line, when Hamor is speaking to his own people, making the proposal from his own side to his own people. Look what he says. Let us take their daughters for ourselves as wives and give our daughters to them. Now all the action is on their side. That's a broker. That's a negotiator. Negotiator paints it as good for each side. He's talking to the Jews and you'll be in control. You'll be the agents. Everything will be done the way you want it to be done. He speaks to his own people. He said, we'll be the agents. We'll be in control. Everything's done our way. That's how you negotiate a deal. Right? Here you have it. A text 3,300 years old, describing a story 3,700 years ago, but the negotiating tactics were the same then as they are today. Okay, back to 18. Their proposal seemed good in the view of Hamor, in the view of Shechem, the king and his son. Hamor's son, the youth did not delay doing the thing. He wanted Jacob's daughter. He was the most respected of all his father's household, so the people are going to follow him and they're going to do this. Hamor with his son Shechem came to the gate of the city, spoke to the people of the city, saying, now here's the proposal from the other side. The king is speaking to his own people. These people are peaceable with us. Let them settle the land and trade in it, for see, there is ample room in the land for them. No overcrowding. We don't have to give anything up. They'll just be, we'll create suburbs. Let us take their daughters for ourselves as wives and give our daughters to them. However, of course, they set a condition. Only in this condition will the people acquiesce with us and dwell with us, become a people, that all our males become circumcised, as they themselves are circumcised. Now comes the punchline. Their livestock, their possessions, and all their animals, will they not be ours? Think of the boost to the economy. This is a very rich group. If we integrate them, the whole economy is going to go up. It's worth it. Only let us acquiesce to them, and they will settle with us. So the motivation here is absolutely clear. It's just economic. No question of cultural sharing and so forth and so on. It's only economic, and on the basis of that economic gain, they're willing to circumcise, and they do it. All the people, when it came to pass, all the people who departed from the gate, listened to Hamor and descendants, males, those who part of the city, were circumcised. Okay. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were in pain, that two of Jacob's sons, Shimon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, not her only brothers, she has 6 brothers. But as I told you in a previous story, when it mentions relationships, that tells you why they're doing what they're doing. It tells you what's going on in their minds. This is the basis on which they act. Dinah's brothers each took a sword, and they came upon the city confidently and killed every male. That sounds horrific. In a certain sense, it is horrific until we explain it. The key is in the next verse. Hamor and Shechem, his son, they killed with the point of the sword. Then they took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. What? They took Dinah from Shechem's house? What happened over here? What happened over here is very clear. He raped her and then he locked her up. He raped her and kidnapped her. He was holding her captive. The whole negotiation on the previous page, let me find favor in your eyes. Inflate exceedingly the marriage price. I'll give you any money you want, right? Acquiesce, become partners with us, integrate with us. They're holding her captive. What are they going to say? No? They still have her captive. That's the sugar-coated negotiations, the pretended friendship that's typical of the Middle East, right? Where you can't say no because we have your daughter. Well, they didn't count on the physical consequences of circumcision and the greatness of two of the brothers, but they're going to rescue their daughter, who's still held captive, and the collusion of the entire city. The entire city is behind it. That being the case, it's not the negotiations aren't what they look like at all on the surface. Yeah.
Had this negotiation been kosher, would Dinah have been spoken with about this decision beforehand with Jacob? Because I mean, there's an absence of her totally through this whole part.
Sure. I mean,
I'm trying to understand why you don't understand it as, like, she was there, I guess, willingly.
Staying willingly with the guy who raped her? That's a stretch.
Yeah.
If you had some positive evidence for it, but if you don't say that, normally when a woman is raped,
Yeah.
she doesn't like the guy, right? She didn't ask for this. She was irresponsible that she went to the local discotheques and so forth and so on. But that's not going to justify rape. Try telling that to a feminist today, you know. Oh, she really liked it and so forth and so on. Boy, will you get it, you know. You'll never talk again.
But it said that she was she liked him
Where does it say that?
before. Remember?
I pointed that out to avoid that. It says he spoke, he appealed to her emotions. That's all it says. I'll show it to you. It's on page 181,
Yeah,
right? At the end of verse 3. He loved the maiden and appealed to the maiden's emotions. And I asked, what does that imply about her reaction? It implies nothing.
Doesn't mean she liked him at all.
When you want to marry a girl and you'll propose marriage and she says no, you'll be appealing to her emotions. And she may say, no, I don't want to marry you. What happened? You appealed and she said no.
Oh.
He appealed. He appealed. You make it. Not every appeal is answered positively. Some appeals are turned down. You know, you'll apply for graduate school, and you'll see that Not every graduate school will let you in just because you applied, right? You're appealing, and some of them are saying, no, we're not having that. To say that he appealed to her emotions says nothing at all about her reaction. And since she was just raped, you will never sell to a feminist that if he talks, gives you sugar talk after he rapes you, then you'll forget about the rape and you'll love him and you'll want to marry him, right? No feminist is going to take that. And although I have lots of qualities for feminism, this is not one of them. Yeah.
And there's even a little more evidence that she wasn't for it either, because the pasuk right after that says, "So Shechem spoke to Hamor's father, saying, 'Take me this girl for a wife,' because she didn't agree to anything. So, okay, Dad, help me out."
Could be. Could very well be. Yeah. Sorry.
So, yeah, I was kind of going on with what he said. So, like, he appealed to her, and she obviously shot him down based on, being raped. And then his response was to try and go over her head and ask.
I didn't notice that. I think maybe you're right. That's a nice observation. I didn't see that. Yeah.
Well, if the appeal to her emotions did work,
Yeah.
it could still say he appealed to her emotions, and it could be said that way that it actually did work too.
Sure, that's true. But now you're talking
So
about.
how do you know that just because it says it this way? How do you know that she doesn't actually like him?
Because he raped her.
Yeah.
And because he raped her, knowing human nature, you would need some extraordinary statement in the text that, contrary to all human nature, she ended up liking
What
him.
about like Stockholm syndrome? That happens all the time. Where like the captive falls in love with the one who's holding him captive.
Sure, because he depends upon him for his life. That's not rape. That's not a half-hour rape. Take a look at rape. Do a survey of rape, write to a feminist store. They ask, how many times does rape end up with the girl loving the guy who raped her? It doesn't happen. Stockholm syndrome is not the same thing at all. There, when you become dependent upon the person over a period of time of negotiations, so then the person has power over you, and then it stirs your emotions a certain way. But here you're talking about a rape, yeah.
I have two questions. One of them is, what does it mean when it says went out to look over the daughters of the land?
She went to see the girls of this city. They were camped in the environment of a city. Shechem is a city. To this day, it's a city. And they were on the outskirts of that city. Instead of staying in her own camp, she went out to see the girls of the land, see who they are, talk to them.
Is that nighttime or just...
No, I don't know if it was nighttime or daytime. The text doesn't indicate that. But it was not appropriate for her to do that. Because she put herself in danger. Yeah.
Do you know what prompts her to want to go out there and see these other girls in Shechem?
Sorry, say it again?
What prompts her to have that desire? Or is that like left?
There's a hint to it here, but I don't want to go to it now. I want to finish the negotiation. Yeah.
Did she want to let you get any form of punishment?
Oh, well, I'm coming to that. Okay. So that's what they did, and that's how they conducted themselves. Let's read to the end, and then I'll go back and try to fill in. I might run out of time, and I'll finish it tomorrow. Okay, so we're on 185. They took, 27. We have to get down to the bottom of the page. Sons of Jacob came upon the slain. They plundered the city, flocks, cattle, donkeys of the town, all their wealth, children, wives took captive, plundered everything in the house. Jacob said to Shimon and Levi, father says to his two sons, you have now, the English here is very delicate, discomposed. It's like to undo, almost to rip up. Making me odious. Odious, in the Hebrew, it means stink. Among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, I am few in number. Should they band together to attack me, I'll be annihilated, I and my household. So, his complaint is that you've put us in danger. His complaint is not that you killed innocent people. His complaint is only, we are a small group, and these people have lived here for hundreds of years, and they have confederacies with one another, they share alliances with one another, and if you just wiped out the city, we're going to be in trouble. And they said, should he treat our sister like a harlot? They are unrepentant. They're unrepentant. Should he treat his sister like a harlot? Just rape her? Take her captive? As if she's, and not apologize for it, not negotiate about that, just treat it as if it's a non-incident. Right? Now, as a matter of fact, it took a miracle when they pick up to move, just in the middle of the next page, verse 5, they set out and there fell a godly terror on the cities that were around them, so they did not pursue Jacob's sons. So Jacob was not unrealistic about this, that the cities around would find this to be provocative, and they would want to do something to punish them. He wasn't exaggerating, but in fact, God prevented it. Whether Shimon and Levi could have known that, or what, but I want you to know that when Jacob was on his deathbed, and when he pronounced for each of his sons what their political future would be when they would become tribes and would come to take possession of the land of Israel, Shimon and Levi suffered. Shimon and Levi suffered. The others got explicit blessings, and they did not get a blessing at all. I'll show you that briefly. Maybe I'll have to go back tomorrow and finish the rest of the details. Take a look at page 277. Now here's Jacob on his deathbed. All the sons are gathered around him. He's speaking to them about what's going to be their collective futures. Each one of them, in terms of their collective progeny, descendants. Verse 5, Shimon and Levi are comrades. Their weaponry is a stolen craft. Into their conspiracy may my soul not enter. If they join together in the future, let me not be present. With their congregation, do not join, O my honor. When they get together to act in concert, I don't want to be part of them. For in their rage they murdered people, and at their whim they hamstrung an ox. That's when they attacked Joseph, which we haven't read about. Accursed is their rage, for it is intense, and their wrath, for it is harsh. Accursed. The father on his deathbed, Jacob, the third patriarch, talking to his sons. Can you imagine hearing this? I will separate them with Jacob and will disperse them within Israel. They will not be concentrated, because when they're concentrated, they're volatile and they can come to act in completely inappropriate ways. So I'll make sure they're scattered. They're not concentrated in any one place. That's all he says to them directly. Now the text indicates afterwards that he shared around everything that he said to everybody else, but this is the direct expression to them, which is very, very harsh. And half of it is built on the incident that we just saw. So he attacks them then, and they don't accept it. Maybe if they had accepted it, maybe if they had expressed that they realized that it was a mistake and accepted Jacob's point of view, they wouldn't have ended up with this curse. But they didn't accept it. They retained their position, and that's the curse that they got at the end. Now I will just tell you, just because we said this, and I said tomorrow I'll go back to some of the details. That's very interesting. He says, I'm going to divide them and disperse them in the Jewish people. This happened in two different ways. Shimon got a portion of land, like all the tribes, got his own portion of land. And that's where he took up residence, but they were very poor. People of Shimon were very poor. They couldn't make a living on their own and had to hire themselves out to the people of the other tribes, and their population dispersed so that they did not form an isolated entity in the Jewish people. That's what happened to Shimon. Levi became the Levites. They came to serve in the temple. They had no portion of the land that was theirs. They had 48 scattered cities, which were theirs, and they were scattered throughout the entire land. From which you see that when a pronouncement is made as to your future, it is not in and of itself necessarily good or bad. It depends on what you make out of it. Jacob said they can't be concentrated. When they're concentrated, they're dangerous. So I'm going to scatter them. Okay, they're going to be scattered. For Shimon, it was a scattering of loss, degradation, and for Levi, it was a scattering of honor. Because later, they didn't join the golden calf. So they distinguished themselves in that way. They brought themselves back. They were able to bring themselves back. So this is a symptom of a general Jewish attitude. That whatever condition you're born into in life, whatever condition you're trained into, whatever your background, whatever it is, it can be a stepping stone for great accomplishment, or it can be something which is terribly negative. It depends on what you make out of it. Your free will can change the character of the condition for the good or for bad. we're talking about a situation in which a group organized as a state, okay, state in modern terminology is a grand term. The Greeks had a term, city-state. It's a city with a king and its own laws, rules, organization, authority. Commit a crime. The prince of the city rapes a foreigner and takes her captive. So the crime is not a one-time event, it's an ongoing condition. Now, in modern warfare, there is a doctrine of using proportional force. Proportional force. If you're attacked, you should not use disproportional force to respond. When I first heard those words, I understood them out of the dictionary. If they fire 16 bullets at you, don't fire more than 16 bullets at them. If they fire a missile into your territory, you can fire one missile back. It should be proportional. That's totally incorrect. That's totally incorrect. That's not what proportional means. I'm talking about international law now. I'm talking about Torah, our prejudices and values. I'm talking about international law. Proportional force means if country A is attacking country B can use any force necessary to stop the attack, but not more. Not more force than is necessary to stop the attack. So, if country A fires 1,000 missiles at country B, and country B has an air force and also atomic bombs, and country B can stop the attack using its air force, it shouldn't use an atomic bomb, because an atomic bomb will annihilate the entire population. That's disproportional force. But if the missiles that country A fires kill 125 people, and in order to stop it, the Air Force has to kill 1,000 people on either side, that's proportional. That's proportional and justified. You do not have to absorb an attack from another country. And anything that you need to do to stop the attack is justified. That is the doctrine. Look it up on the internet. Look it up on Wikipedia, and you will see that that is what the law says. So we don't look at how much damage the attacker did and say that the responder, the defender, because after all, the attacker is doing something that's wrong. He has no right to attack another country. That wrongness gives the legitimacy to responding in any way that is necessary to defend against the attack. Now, I think something roughly proportional to that is going on over here, because this city are colluding in the rape that took place already, that's an attack that took place already, and holding the girl captive. According to proportional response, anything that is necessary to undo the crime, that is to say, to free the girl who's being held captive, is perfectly acceptable. And if it requires vast campaign with vast consequences, if they're holding on, if they don't sue for peace, if they don't say, okay, stop and we'll give her back, then it's perfectly justified. I'm talking about modern international law. Not that I think that modern international law is the paradigm of morality or virtue or whatever, but if somebody's looking at this through a lens of modern eyes, I don't think you can raise a complaint. From the point of view of our values, since they're all idol worshippers and they're all colluding in this crime, from our point of view, they're guilty of crimes that disqualify their lives altogether. But even from a modern point of view, I don't think one can mount a reasonable attack. Okay, that's just what we were talking about yesterday.